Prince William is supposedly working on a plan to finally take away Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal titles. Meghan is still using her royal title even though she agreed to stop using it when the Sussexes left their royal jobs. So how is William planning to handle this? Inside Westminster, in those old stone hallways that have seen wars, kings giving up their thrones, and hundreds of years of political drama, a rumor was starting to spread that something big was about to happen from the House of Lords itself. The oldest lawmaking group in the world, a place where tradition is carved into every wooden bench and every family crest, did something nobody saw coming. An official request written in serious legal language was put on the record. Its goal was simple: to permanently take away Meghan Markle's title of Duchess of Sussex. This wasn't just gossip. This wasn't just guessing. This was the system talking, and it was talking loud. Behind closed doors, top officials described the moment as something we haven't seen since right after Megxit happened. Part of Parliament had reached its breaking point, and the quiet complaints that had been going around Westminster for months were finally becoming real. For the first time, the British government wasn't just annoyed. It was getting ready to do something. One thing became obvious in that moment. This wasn't just a fight between a family and its rebellious members anymore. This was now a government issue. The wheels of British power were turning, and they were turning against her. So let me break down what really went down. So the breaking point happened thousands of miles away in Nigeria. What looked like a private trip on the outside had all the features of an official royal visit. Meghan showed up with Harry wearing traditional clothing, giving speeches in front of crowds, taking pictures with top military leaders, and accepting honors that usually need approval from the palace or the Foreign Office. But according to insiders, that approval was never given. Not a single department connected to government diplomacy, not the palace, not the Foreign Office had been told, briefed, or asked about it. The trip played out as if the Sussexes still had jobs within the royal family's working system, as if their royal duties had somehow continued after they left. For members of the House of Lords, this wasn't just wrong, it was risky. The words used behind those closed doors were serious. Unauthorized diplomatic acting, a threat to the Crown's neutrality, a violation of constitutional rules. In their view, Meghan was playing the part of a royal representative without having the authority or responsibility that job needs. Pictures of her with high-ranking Nigerian officials spread around the world, making it look like there was official approval that never happened. The visuals alone, a duchess acting like she was basically an ambassador, was enough to worry those in charge of protecting the government's diplomatic limits. This moment, more than any interview, appearance, or business deal, became the trigger. The Lords decided that if a private citizen uses a royal title to do what looks like international diplomacy, the problems go beyond media drama. They affect national interests. And when national interests are threatened, the British Parliament doesn't just sit there. This trip didn't just annoy the establishment. It woke it up. It pushed a whisper into a statement that a line had been crossed and the title of Duchess of Sussex could no longer go unchallenged. See, guys, royal titles are more than fancy labels. They are legal tools protected by laws that are older than the modern age of fame. And as the Lords looked at Meghan's public actions, they found a path straight into the legal center of the monarchy. The Royal Titles Act of 1917, a law created during World War I, designed to stop noble titles from being taken advantage of, turned into money, or used for personal gain outside the monarchy's rules. Legal experts, the kind who advise government officials, not gossip magazines, started quietly arguing that Meghan's public use of her Duchess identity along with her media projects could be breaking that law. And once Parliament starts questioning if laws are being followed, the problem goes beyond manners. It becomes a constitutional violation. Sources say that this legal angle became the foundation of the petition. The Nigeria trip raised diplomatic worries. But the 1917 law, that was where the law itself joined the conversation. The House of Lords now had a tough choice. Either ignore what seems to be growing misuse of a noble title or enforce the law that has controlled royal identities 100%. For over 100 years. And for the first time in Meghan's public story, enforcement was no longer just an idea. If there was one thing that brought critics in Parliament together, It was the growing business empire built around the Sussex name. Not guessing, not rumors, but actual corporate paperwork, marketing materials, and worldwide media contracts that clearly relied on the Duchess title. It began with the Netflix deal, a multi-million-dollar partnership that started with a documentary that opened on screen with Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Not as a polite gesture, not as a small detail, but as the visual main attraction of the first shot shown in traditional royal fonts. To the lords, that wasn't entertainment. It was marketing. Then came Spotify, then Archewell. Then the attempt to trademark Sussex Royal for worldwide use. A move personally stopped by Queen Elizabeth after advisors warned it would turn a royal title into a commercial business. The petition mentions these attempts clearly, calling them unauthorized commercial use of noble status. From Parliament's point of view, this wasn't an accidental mix of royalty and career. It was a plan, a deliberate shaping of the Sussex identity into a sellable product, one capable of selling documentaries, podcasts, interviews, merchandise, and influence. For centuries, royal titles have been symbols. Under the Sussexes, they became moneymakers. And moneymakers, when misused, trigger laws. Laws trigger petitions, and petitions trigger results. Inside Westminster, this phase of Meghan's journey was seen not as drive, but as change. A Duchess becoming a global entertainment personality powered by a title she was never supposed to make money from. And with that understanding, the House of Lords decided that action could no longer wait. Royal communications protocol is older than most modern countries. It is a system designed to prevent exactly what the Lords say has happened over the last 4 years. Unauthorized stories, uncontrolled messaging, and personal campaigns that overshadow the crown itself. Meghan stepped outside that system over and over. Her podcast Archetypes became the main example mentioned in parliamentary discussion. Inside those episodes, she talked about her child's treatment by the royals, her mental health struggles, accusations of racism within the institution, and experiences meant to support her private work. Each claim spread far beyond the podcast's listeners. Each episode became a news story, and each news story made the gap bigger between public perception and palace silence. For the House of Lords, this wasn't media content. It was a violation. They mentioned the podcast directly as proof of breaking centuries-old rules that don't allow royals from making statements that 1. Contradict the monarchy, 2. Embarrass the institution, or 3. Present a private story as official truth. Sources say the Lords describe this as worldwide embarrassment, a humiliation of the institution by someone who still carried its title like a badge of credibility. In their eyes, Meghan turned private complaints into public diplomacy without accountability, oversight, or permission. And Parliament had grown tired of watching tradition fall apart on a podcast feed. While the palace kept quiet and the monarchy kept its distance, the public spoke up. A national YouGov poll showed a huge shift in feelings. 77% of the British public believe Meghan should lose the Duchess of Sussex title. Support for removal comes from every political group, from conservatives to moderates to liberals. 61% say Prince Harry should lose his titles as well, especially the royal styling. These numbers shocked Westminster more than any interview, documentary, or media statement. Because public opinion isn't gossip. Public opinion becomes pressure. Pressure becomes demand. And demand becomes action. Behind the scenes, sources claim the House of Lords privately pointed to this poll as reason for their involvement. They interpreted it as a national demand, not out of hatred, but out of duty. The British people were showing something clear. The title no longer represented duty, loyalty, or public service. Instead, they saw celebrity red carpets, Hollywood deals, public complaints turned into worldwide headlines, and a duchess who lives thousands of miles away in Montecito, separated from the crown, but still carrying its name. In the eyes of the British public, the title felt wrong. In the eyes of Parliament, it felt weaponized. And together, those forces form the basis for an unprecedented move, which leads to the final chapter, the one that turns this story from controversy into constitutional history. In the oldest room of British power, Beneath arched ceilings and flickering lamps that have witnessed centuries of history, a petition now sits. A petition that could end Meghan Markle's existence as the Duchess of Sussex forever. This is no longer personal. This is no longer about personality, popularity, or palace politics. This is constitutional. What started as a whisper, a faint rumor slipping through Westminster's hallways, has grown into a loud declaration. The House of Lords, protectors of tradition and guardians of royal integrity, has stepped into the empty space left by a silent monarchy and an exiled duchess. If the petition succeeds, Meghan will face something no modern royal has faced. A legal removal of her noble title, not a voluntary giving up, not a negotiated removal, but a legal eraser. The Duchess of Sussex would become a chapter closed, a title rewritten, a name returned to the crown. And this moment, this petition, this unprecedented act, it carries weight far beyond Meghan Markle herself. Because the Lords understand something important. If a royal title can be turned into a brand, it loses meaning. If it can be used without duty, it loses dignity. If it can be commercialized, politicized, and publicized into global entertainment, then the monarchy loses more than respect. It loses power. And that above all else is what the House of Lords refuses to allow. So now the world watches quietly, nervously, as the future of the Duchess of Sussex title hangs by a thin thread. A duchess in California, a petition in Westminster, a monarchy standing still, and a parliament stepping forward. This is not the end of the story. This is the doorway to the next chapter, a moment frozen between tradition and change, between silence and consequences. Because once Parliament moves, the world will know whether Meghan Markle's royal era is closing or if the crown itself is getting ready to redraw the lines between monarchy, celebrity, and power for the next generation.